differently.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is Below the Line Podcast, the show that proves that the best insights come from outside the industry. I am one of your co-hosts, your resident amateur Greek, Stoic, and existential philosopher hobbyist, Dylan.
And I am Odysseus.
He's in the building with us.
Can't see me like I'm John Cena. Joking. I'm actually your co-host, Jesse. I don't know if you guys know this, but Odysseus died a long time ago.
Yeah.
I am just merely like a fraction of the aura that he has.
He's channeling the spirit of Odysseus.
I was trying to. I really hope that like Levi in post makes this like look and sound cooler than when. I hope Dylan makes it look cooler in post, and I hope that Levi, our maestro, is able to like make it sound good.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's up, chat? Welcome back to another episode of Below the Line Podcast.
Yes.
Brought to you by the Nobodies of Hollywood. We already did the intro. You guys know who we are. What it do? So, this is it, guys.
It's been a long time coming.
Been a long time coming, and oh my god, when I tell you guys like the backstory and like the lore that went to like make this episode, y'all ain't ready for it. But that's a tale for a different time.
Yes.
This week's episode, like we're none of this fluff shit. We're not gonna like. There's like no banter, no intro. We're just gonna dive right into it because I think there is a lot to talk about. Mm-hmm. We're about a month late, maybe about a month late in terms of talking about this film. But in my defense and Dylan's defense too, if you're watching this in the year 2026, there's only one movie so far that can drive this much interest and enthusiasm to see this movie in IMAX, and that is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Mm-hmm. Yep, you heard right. This is that episode, guys. So lock the fuck in because we're about to go in. All right,
we're kind of having a monoculture moment, and for once, instead of superheroes, it's about Homer, The Odyssey, and Christopher Nolan. Mm-hmm. And I think for everything that is going wrong in the world or anything that you think is going wrong, the fact that we have come together to have this, like I said, monoculture moment about high art instead of a Marvel movie, that to me is great. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, like everyone, and I mean everybody is talking about this movie. Some of it, pretty good, pretty good film discussion going around this movie.
Yeah.
Some of it pretty bad, as in like the criticisms or like
culture wars stuff.
Yeah, like the dialogue around it, just it's not helping anybody. It's like no, like who the fuck cares that like Helen of Troy was black? Like on screen, like she was only like in the film for like less than 5 minutes. And
3 minutes, I counted.
How much?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. So yeah, she was only there for like 3 minutes, and so like all the people getting mad about this and that, like Helen's supposed to be like that, and like shut, like it didn't matter. It did not matter. So like, why are we wasting our energy talking about this or that when we can be talking about like the actual shit that matters about the film? Mm-hmm. Like when people were like, some people were like criticizing Tom Holland for calling Odysseus his dad. And it's like, Tom Holland had the perfect clapback when they asked him this. He's like, yeah, they wouldn't have said dad. They would have like said it in Greek, ancient Greek. So like, come on guys. Like that is like one of the criticisms of this film is that, it's a bit more, colloquial in its speech. Like it's a little bit too like American, versus like something like Troy, where everybody's speaking with like this grander than life heroic voices and language and dialogue.
I called it like elevated archaic
elevated elevated speed, like my lord, like the Troy versus Matt Damon, or not Matt Damon, sorry, I guess Matt Damon as Odysseus on the beach, like, let's get the fuck out of this beach or whatever. But see, I'm already all over the place because there's a lot to talk about this movie. I need
the difference is that they talk like that in the Odyssey, and in Troy, like I said, Brad Pitt does this. Even Brad Pitt, when he fights Hector of Troy, takes off his helmet and he does this accent. He's just trying to elevate the whole piece. Now you know who you're fighting. Yeah, and that's obviously not his voice or his accent. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of just guys like that, okay, yeah, sure, it's a valid, or I don't know if I want to say valid, but
they both have their merits.
Yeah, okay, so it is valid in its own way.
We're off to a messy start, but it's fine because I just want to say,
hey, Odyssey had a messy start getting home, all right?
That's true. There are things to like about Troy, but it's not the Odyssey.
Yeah. And as you were saying, there is some merit in those criticisms. So I say that to say that there are some criticisms that are worth talking about in this film, but then there are some criticisms where it's this nobody cares about this. This is not a fruitful discussion. What dialogue are we gonna get out of Helena of Troy should not have been black, she should have been this and that. Okay, you said your point. How would that have changed the film? How let's say what if they cast Helena of Troy as a white woman? How would that have changed anything in the Odyssey? As it is already, switch the casting. How would that have changed? It would have changed nothing. All right, so it's like a fruitless discussion. If you want to talk about bad casting or whatever, Dylan's got a spicy take that we're gonna get into later. But
yeah,
my point is that this is a film where a lot of people are talking about it, and so even though we're a month late going into it, I think this is gonna be a film that's gonna be relevant for the rest of the year.
Still gonna, I think it's gonna go on because you have Emily Wilson, who is supposedly the inspiration for the version of the Odyssey that inspired Nolan to make this movie. Mm-hmm. She wrote a translation in 2017. She seems to want to latch on to the discourse around this movie because it's giving her relevance again. And yeah, you could say I'm being mean-spirited, but
she was being mean-spirited.
Yeah, if you actually read her critique, I think she is also missing the point, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot to talk about this movie. And I think it's going to be a film that people are still going to be talking about until the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to be one of the films of 2026 where people will look back at this film this is not even a hot take or whatever, but clip this. I think The Odyssey is going to be one of those movies that people look at how they look at Troy, Lord of the Rings. I'm blanking out right now, but it's also got Brad Pitt, Fight Club. There's not a lot in common with these movies. I mean, maybe there is if you really think about it. But I named these movies as in movies that people talk about decades later. Mm-hmm. I think The Odyssey, this is gonna be a movie that people talk about decades later, a decade from now or whatever. Nobody's gonna be talking about Captain Marvel. Nobody's gonna be talking about She-Hulk, this or that. Nobody's gonna be talking about Captain America, the Falcon one. Nobody's gonna be talking about these Marvel movies. Some of them they will be talked about. Some people still talk we still talk about the first Iron Man movie. We still talk about Thor Ragnarok. We still talk about Endgame, obviously. But I say this to say that The Odyssey is gonna be one, I think, and it's not even a hot take because it's so obvious that this is probably in my opinion, Christopher Nolan's most ambitious and best work. I think Dylan would agree with half of that point. I think his favorite or best work is you would say was Oppenheimer. Yeah, because I am
And this is like no hate towards Nolan.
No, this is gonna sound bad, but
he says it with love.
I try to delineate between best and favorite. I think Christopher Nolan's best work still to this day is Oppenheimer, but I will 1000% rewatch The Odyssey more. It's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie by far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many times have you watched The Odyssey already prior to making this episode?
Thrice.
Yeah. I've only seen it twice, Chad.
Yeah.
After this movie, I was like, I wonder if they released IMAX movies on Blu-ray. And no, they don't. Sometimes they do, like Zack Snyder's The Justice League. But most of the time, the IMAX resolution that we get in theaters, which is
it's about 1:9.
Yeah, 1:9. Well, that's the one we get on a home release. But the aspect like that's a bit more like not widescreen. It's a little bit more squarish, but it's still like a bit widescreen versus the IMAX, which is like 1.43 or
specific specifications. Let me see.
Well, because my point is like what they release in the movie theater is like the whole square, like this like kind of square resolution or aspect ratio. When they release it in quote unquote IMAX for Blu-ray DVD, it's not even the square. It's like a little bit. It's not as cropped as the widescreen, but it's not as full as like the original aspect ratio. So I'm a little afraid that like this movie's gonna come out like on Blu-ray. It's just gonna be like still like a bit more chopped. Like it's not gonna be like the full like as Nolan intended video version aspect ratio. Which sucks because
it's 1:43 to 1, and then the dual laser IMAX, which is LIMAX, is 1:9 to 1.
And what's like the traditional like home theater or sorry, theater and home resolution? Because like you said, 1.9 is like the LIMAX or whatever.
Yeah.
So what's the home resolution, like the default, I should say?
You mean for movies that are like almost all movies?
Yeah.
They're typically presented in 2:39 to 1.
Okay, there you go. And I know there's some people listening that listening and watching who are gonna be like, the fuck is that? And I'm sorry, like I didn't know what that was either. I had to like Google this shit because like I thought IMAX just meant louder, like dead ass.
Hot take. I think 2:39 to 1 is the most cinematic aspect ratio if you know how to frame your shots within that aspect ratio, like Matt Reeves. But most directors are not Matt Reeves, so take that how you will.
Mm-hmm. That is a hot take. I would have thought you would have been like a proponent of like the IMAX 1.43 resolution. So to hear you say that, like, hey, actually,
I think
the 2.39.
I think movies look more cinematic when they are shot wide. That's not me saying the Odyssey is a gimmick with the tall image. I'm saying I think for the way that visual storytelling operates, it makes more sense to shoot wide.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to disagree with that because, I mean, most of the movies I've seen were in that resolution. It's just like right now it's kind of a gimmick. Like, oh shit, the Odyssey is the first movie ever shot in like 100% IMAX because Nolan's been doing this throughout his career where like he's been like introducing IMAX cameras in his work. And like as with every new film that he does, he uses it more and more and more. Like in Oppenheimer, he used it a lot. Yeah. So now when it got to like the Odyssey, it was all IMAX, like all 70 millimeter analog camera, like 2 million feet of raw like footage. Like, yeah, like this man did a lot. So like let's get in, like let's get into it. Like there's not like I mean there is a deep summary or whatever, but I think if you're in high school in North America, then you've probably or were forced to read the Odyssey in English class, or you read the SparkNotes version of it before ChatGPT. That's what I used to do. But so like the Odyssey is it's a super old tale. It's one of like our oldest known human historic epics of all time.
Mhm.
So a lot of tropes that we see today can go back all the way to the Odyssey. So I'm gonna let Dylan give us like the film summary because I think he can put his thoughts down together better than I can because my thoughts are gonna be all over the place when it comes to talking about this movie.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I guess just to give a brief summary, and I'm sorry, but I don't think spoilers matter here. This story is over 3,000 years old. I think the cat's out of the bag at this point.
Yeah.
So the Odyssey in its most basic premise is that after the Trojan War, Odysseus and his men attempt to get home to the kingdom of Ithaca, where they encounter several obstacles and are punished by the gods along the way. And it's a story about a lot of different things, but the basic point is that it is the story of Odysseus trying to get home in the face of obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And all the while, his wife Penelope is under the harassment and pressure of suitors who are trying to take his kingdom, who are threatening his young son, who are using his resources like his food, etc. And all the while, on top of all of this, we have a story that is, in my opinion, really trying to espouse the what I call values and, most importantly, the virtues of Western civilization, which I think Jesse kind of hit the nail on the head here, where he said the Odyssey is a film that will be remembered for decades to come. I think, even though I think it has flaws and I wouldn't call it Christopher Nolan's best movie, I think the Odyssey I think it's still a masterpiece, but I also think that it is a once in a generation cinematic event that I don't think we're going to see for a long time. I think this has to be what it felt like for people to watch Lawrence of Arabia and Ben-Hur back in the day. I have to imagine this is what it was like for them, because it was a truly, I think, overwhelming, immersive, and special experience to watch the Odyssey, especially if you were able to watch it in 70 millimeter IMAX. But yes, that's the basic premise of the Odyssey. It is about Odysseus trying to get home, and that sounds simple, but where I think the story shines is that each generation of civilization really just reads the Odyssey differently. Therefore, it is interpreted differently. And I think the whole point of the Odyssey is that it is supposed to become complicated. You're not supposed to know who is the good guy, who is the bad guy. I think the point is that it's supposed to be complex and multifaceted, which is why this story has endured the test of time. Like Jesse said, it is one of the great epics of the Western canon, and I'm just so overjoyed that we're seeing this happen, especially, like I said, as a monocultural moment, because my great hope for this is that it blows the doors off for us to see adaptations of the rest of the high art in the Western canon. And what I mean by that is, let's see a good adaptation of the Iliad. Let's see a good adaptation of Oedipus Rex. Let's see a faithful adaptation of the original Heracles. Let's see adaptations of Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Pride and Prejudice. I hope that is the domino effect from this movie.
I hope so too. Like, I also hope more directors start shooting in IMAX too, just because Nolan did it. And like, I know from that we're probably gonna get some bad IMAX movies, but from that also we might and hopefully get like a lot of good IMAX movies. A few episodes ago, I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. But a few episodes ago, I had said that I think Disclosure Day is my favorite movie of the year. Yeah, like that was a few episodes ago and a few weeks ago, and then I saw The Odyssey, and now I have to say that The Odyssey is my favorite movie of this year. So, you're from me like on this episode, you're gonna hear me like praise the ever. I don't even know how to say this word, but I'm just gonna praise the shit out of this movie because I have nothing but praise. Well, no, I do have some criticisms. I will get into them. I'm not just a blind sheeple that just like likes everything that he sees. But I do have some criticisms. But for the most part, I really enjoyed this movie, and I have a lot of positive things to say about it. Like I'll just dive into it. Like we can go into the world building, like visually, like this movie, like the shots that Nolan did for like okay, I'll get the criticism out right now. Like Nolan can sometimes be a bit shaky with the camera, and it's a bit annoying when you try to do fight scenes or whatever. It's like, bro, just hold your shot, just stay right there, stop moving or whatever. But he does have some shots where he if it's like of the scenery or if it's of of like the background or whatever, like there was a lot of like on location shots versus like this movie being filmed in a warehouse or whatever. So it's like some of these shots were like really fucking scenic. Dylan already said no spoilers, so this is already like towards the end of the film, where it has Odysseus on a raft that he built by himself. It's just like in the middle. It's like a wide when I saw it, it was like a wide angle of just like him in like the middle of the ocean, just flowing on like that raft or whatever. It's just it looked fucking incredible. Or like the whirlpool earlier in the film, that was a mixture of both practical and special effects. The practical effects was Nolan had a bunch of guys on jet skis just doing donuts in the water so they can form like those little waves around it. And then the CGI effects of making it look like a whirlpool. But like that shot, like that shit looks cinematic. So like there's a lot of like visually, like this movie like looks cool. All right, if I gotta get my jokes off, like even the armor, like yeah, that is something one of the criticisms people had was like the armor not being historically accurate or whatever. But my only clap back to that is, guys, The Odyssey is a fictional story. Like, even though Homer wrote it, or Homer is credited as like writing it or whatever, like millennia ago, it was still a fictional story back then. So, like, if Nolan wants to make his Greek heroes and soldiers look fucking badass, if he wants to give like this Agamemnon guy like the Batman armor of like how you would look 2,000 years ago, just let him. It's Christopher Nolan, all right? Like he gave us the Dark Knight trilogy. Let him do that if he wants. Cause like the armor, like I thought it looked pretty cool. So like there is a lot about this movie that like visually it looks cool. There's also like a lot that like visually like this is giving me a headache, Nolan. But for the most part, like visually, like this was like a pretty like it was interesting to see like visually how Nolan portrayed like this world, this ancient Greek world. Because like I said earlier, like there was a lot of like on scene filming. Like they were actually like when they were filming in the castle or whatever, they were filming in the castle. Like there was not like, I mean, obviously there's special effects or whatever, but it wasn't like an MCU like manufactured in a warehouse type of special effects. Like there was a lot of practical like on scene or on location scenes that were filmed. So like world building wise, like visually, 9 out of 10. Nolan, you fucking mad lad, you did it, buddy. And that's just visually, like world building through like the actual characters and like the way they interact. Oh, that's a whole different thing. But I'm gonna pass the ball back to Dylan.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess from a visual perspective with the Odyssey, the most important thing that you have to take into consideration is obviously the use of IMAX cameras.
Oh yeah, no, really.
Because it's very essential to understanding how the movie developed its aesthetic and its style and its tone. And so Jesse kind of prefaced this, but I think it's important to go through because Christopher Nolan is a guy that has a lot of like really diehard fans, and I used to be one of them. And then I watched Tenet, and I was so frustrated with Christopher Nolan and his seemingly inability to understand that movies need an emotional center. They need to have characters that you care about, and Tenet was just the complete antithesis of this. The main character is seriously named the protagonist, and I just couldn't take Christopher Nolan seriously anymore. And this caused me to go back and watch his entire filmography, and I realized, yeah, I think Nolan's a little overrated. Because Christopher Nolan is, especially in his early days, he was a very utilitarian filmmaker in the sense that he didn't really have a discernible style, not in the way that Denis Villeneuve or Quentin Tarantino or David Fincher, guys like this, they have styles. Like when you watch their movies, or even Michael Bay, when you watch a movie and it has these certain visual elements, you know who directed it. And I don't think you can say the same for Christopher Nolan with movies like Memento, Insomnia, even Batman Begins, because visually they're just not all that interesting. And it wasn't until The Dark Knight when Christopher Nolan was the first filmmaker since the 1930s to use IMAX cameras in a commercial feature film, because IMAX cameras have been around for a long time. It's not new technology. It's just that they've typically been preserved for documentaries and nature films because the cameras are known for their really high image quality. So in The Dark Knight, Chris Nolan decided, I'm going to use these cameras that are, traditionally for documentaries, and I'm going to shoot these two sequences, the opening Joker bank heist and the Batmobile chase with them. And in my opinion, and again, I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, which is fine, because apparently a lot of people disagree with me on this podcast. But
gets one mean comment.
Yeah. So Chris Nolan discovers IMAX cameras, and finally he develops a style. It wasn't until Christopher Nolan adopted IMAX that he actually developed a sense of style. And again, like Jesse said, he progressively started to use them more and more. In The Dark Knight Rises, he used them for the opening 6 minutes, and then he used them again for the big clash at the end. Mm-hmm. And obviously, he used them progressively more with Inception, Interstellar, and then Dunkirk. To me, that was the first movie where I felt like Christopher Nolan was starting to figure it out. And what I mean by that is, I think, too, a major problem I have with Chris Nolan as a filmmaker, once I actually grew up and developed real taste in movies, is Chris Nolan, he was just way too obsessed with the mechanics of filmmaking. He is so fascinated by this idea of using film as an illusion to sort of distort the audience's perception of time and immersion, and really see how he can play with all of this and present it to the audience and use it as a way to kind of transport them into these worlds that he's trying to build. And I felt like Dunkirk was the first time he actually started to realize his talents, because you had this triptych narrative of three different storylines that are unfolding over one day, 1 week, and 1 hour. And they were actually weaved together beautifully. And combine this with the fact that at the time it was the most heavily Chris Nolan used IMAX cameras. And I actually was able to watch Dunkirk in 70 millimeter IMAX, and it was a riveting experience. And then Tenet came out in 2020.
Cool.
And that's what started this whole cascade of me going back and thinking, I think Chris Nolan is just too obsessed with the mechanics of filmmaking instead of the heart and the emotion and the theming and just like the narrative spine of the movie. It's like he didn't care about that. He was just so obsessed with the technicality of it all, and just, ooh, look at this. Look, film is like a magic trick. Look what I can do. And then Oppenheimer came out. And for the first time, Chris Nolan actually did put it all together, because for the first time, Robert Oppenheimer felt like a human being, a flawed human being. And I actually understood the emotional experience of the character, while also admiring that Christopher Nolan shot a lot of that movie with IMAX cameras. And again, showing off this technical bravura that he has. But that was the first time Christopher Nolan was actually able to marry the emotional aspect of movies and visual storytelling with the technical side that he is clearly so much more interested in. And to me, the reason Oppenheimer is still his best work is because I think it's still his most creative film. Like, Oppenheimer will have these little abstractions where we see like these visions of the atoms colliding or splitting, and we don't really know what that is. Like, is that part of the narrative? Is that part of,
what he sees?
Yes. Is that what Oppenheimer sees in his head? Is it a hallucination? We don't know. And then you have scenes like the courtroom scenes, or when he meets some of the politicians, he sees like the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And again, we don't know, like, is that a manifestation of his guilt? Is that an actual, like, is that supposed to be some kind of interwoven visual sequence to it happening in real time? We don't really know. And I like that ambiguity of Oppenheimer. Like, it was weird. And it just felt like Christopher Nolan was finally realizing his talents. And so with the Odyssey, the whole big thing is this is the first commercial feature film to be shot entirely on IMAX cameras.
Yep.
And that sounds cool, but the problem is IMAX cameras are notoriously hard to work with. That's why most filmmakers don't use them. Fully loaded, an IMAX camera can weigh well over 100 pounds. And they are loud. Very, very loud.
Yeah.
So instead of compromising on his vision, Nolan worked directly with IMAX to alter the technology, and they built new IMAX cameras called the IMAX Keeley in honor of the late David Keeley.
Oh, get ready, chat. He's about to nerd out. Get ready.
And take notes. Yeah, so they built 4 of these cameras to be more nimble, but they also had to account for that problem of the noise, because regular IMAX cameras are so loud to the point where it can be hard to shoot traditional dialogue scenes. And that's why even the filmmakers who do shoot on IMAX, they typically reserve it for these big standout sequences that they want you to see as this grand spectacle, and they'll move back to more practical cameras for the rest of the movie. But Nolan, having developed the Keeley directly with IMAX, The camera was more mobile now, but it was still very loud. And so again, Nolan worked with IMAX to create what they called blimps. And this eliminated about 50% of the noise pollution from the camera, but it created an entirely new problem where the blimp obstructed the lens and it messed with the actor's eye line. So if they were doing a scene where two actors had to share a scene and look at each other, the camera made this virtually impossible. So Nolan and his entire production team had to come up with this mirror system that would allow the actors to look at each other via reflection, because the cameras are just these giant monstrosities.
Right.
And it threw off the eye lines. So the whole gimmick of the Odyssey is that it's shot entirely on IMAX using this mirror system, and with an IMAX camera that's not the original IMAX camera. And these things can only shoot for about 2.5 to 3 minutes. So you got to halt production completely, reload, and just go through this whole thing again. This was a grueling process. And so the entire visual aesthetic of the Odyssey is built on the premise that it's shot in IMAX. But the reason I actually think it works here is because the Odyssey is, like Jesse said, it is the great Western epic. It is the story that defined so many other stories that came after it, so many other storytelling devices that came after it. And so I think it works for the Odyssey because this is a great story. It's a timeless story that has influenced us in ways that people can't even imagine. And I'll get into some of this stuff later, but suffice it to say, this is one of the most important stories of our lifetime. And so I think the scale actually works. But the one kind of little quibble that I'm going to have here is, like Jesse said, Nolan does not hold his shots very long, especially at the beginning of the movie. And this was a problem for me because the beginning of the movie starts off in the traditional Nolan way where he's doing the cross-cutting, he's messing with the timeline, he has all these different perspectives from a narrative standpoint, which, again, from like a technical standpoint is fine. But the problem with these IMAX cameras is Nolan is holding his shots for like 3 to 4 seconds, cut. And even to the point where, like, you have no time for this movie to breathe in the first 20 to 30 minutes, even to the point where the dialogue has no room to breathe. It's like the actor will deliver the line, cut. Even if it's just shot, reverse shot, says the line, cut, next actor, cut. And it feels messy to me. And so I think there are some issues with this really heavy machinery that you're lugging around. And Jesse already pointed out the other major problem I have, which is that the action scenes are not good. I think this is where you really see the limitation of IMAX cameras. Or you could argue this is a hot take. I just don't think Christopher Nolan is a very good action director. The fight scenes in the Dark Knight trilogy are bad. The action in Inception is nothing to write home about. The action in Tenet is nothing to write home about. So I think there's an argument to be had that Chris Nolan is just not a very good action director. But specifically for the Odyssey, when you're trying to shoot these action scenes, in particular the climax, where you're trying to do this close-up John Wick style set piece, I think there are some clear limitations to carrying around these 100-pound cameras and trying to shoot that kind of action. But yeah, we can explore that later in depth. But I think the scale and just the sheer spectacle of it all works because of the story that Christopher Nolan is telling, because this is the Odyssey, I think it works. The only real problem I have, because I don't take issue with the armor. My response to the whole controversy about the armor is that I don't think any of these people have ever watched a Christopher Nolan movie before. He's a very blunt filmmaker. Like, he just shoots things very kind of desaturated. Not to the extreme end, like, say Zack Snyder, the Twilight movies for some weird reason, but his movies are kind of dull. And so that kind of leads into the only real problem I have with the visuals and the aesthetic and the cinematography, which is that I don't understand, and you'll see why this is a complaint for me later in the episode, but I don't understand why Nolan shoots the Greeks in such a flat, monotone way. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it really clashes with what the movie wants to say in terms of its theming and its messaging. I don't understand why everything looks so dull, especially with what we know about the Greeks. Like, when you picture the kind of Mycenaean Greek society, you picture like these beautiful buildings, like the Acropolis, like this white marble, like everything is just gorgeous and colorful. And instead, in the Odyssey, everything is just gray. Like, Ithaca is it's a gray castle. Why? Why is everything shot so flat and just kind of generally uninspired? But yeah, I'll elaborate on that when we get to what the movie's trying to say, because I think that's the problem, is the way it's shot. It just clashes so heavily with the theme and Odysseus's character arc. But yeah, that's my take on the visual aesthetic and the world building here. Like, I do think the movie looks fantastic. I think there are shots here. I think some of the best shots in this movie are actually some of the most innocuous shots. Like, when they are sailing, they'll just mount the camera to the bow of the boat and you'll get these shots of the waves just moving. And I just find that strangely meditative and beautiful. There's this scene where they got so lucky and there were dolphins swimming in the ocean alongside the boat. I think that's one of the best shots. And yeah, I just think some of the most memorable shots are kind of the things they kind of either caught by accident or where they're actually coincidentally just shooting the nature, which is what IMAX was typically for.
Right.
So yeah, that's going to be my spiel on all that.
Uh-huh. Damn. See, I'm glad like you had like that monologue about like the IMAX cameras and like, like just because that is true. That is something I didn't even consider that, because I mean, I don't know shit about IMAX, or at least I didn't before I started like looking into it more after the movie. But yeah, I didn't know that they were like, these giant like heavy ass cameras, which it makes sense because if they had to carry around all this film, a lot of film will weigh a lot, and that's going to weigh it down as compared to a digital camera with the memory card. So I get it, like, so like that makes sense. I just never thought of it. I'm like, oh shit, yeah. So here you go, chat. You learned something there too, because I didn't know all that. I want to talk about like something just like in terms of just like to add like to cliff note or end off my thoughts on like the world building or like the visual aesthetic of it. Like I like that in this movie there's like a lot of practical effects, or like it was blended in with, and I've already mentioned this, but it blended in with special effects. Like right now I'm thinking about like the scene with the witch Cersei when she converts them into like turns them into pigs, or turns them back from pigs to humans, with like her bar of a line like, go back to your human disguises, go back to your human disguises. I'm like, oh, so fucking good. Like, oh, that's made like the hair stand on my fucking arms. Like, ooh, that is like, man, this movie I like it. Like just it was so like horrifying, like the body horror like in this movie, like oh that's pretty cool. Or like when Odysseus is like and him and his men are like fighting off like the giants or like the man eating cannibals off that one island or whatever.
They're supposed to be giant cannibals.
Yeah, like in the book, like they're giant cannibals or whatever. Like the cannibal part is not like shown or mentioned in the movie. But the giant part is, and what I learned about this was that they had like stunt doubles, like for like the Odysseus and his men, like they had like men that were like 5 feet or under, and then for like the giants, they had men that were like 7 feet or taller. So that way when you like, and then like having them like stand like taller on a hill, so like the giants actually look fucking tall and big compared to like Odysseus and his men, and like because like I watched the movie. I started doing my research about the movie. I saw that as like a TikTok short, like where people were like the actors were talking about like the movie and like how things were done or whatever. And I was like, oh shit, hold on. So the second time when I watched this movie, that's where I paid attention. Like, like that's cute, or like that's. I mean, I don't pay attention to this shit normally, but like the way that they filmed this was like, yeah, like I mentioned, they had like the 7-foot giant actors, the 5 feet. Odysseus men stunt doubles, and so whenever they were framed or shot like Odysseus or whatever, if it was the giants towering over them, it was always from behind, so you never saw Matt Damon like his face to face with a giant. Like it was usually like filmed from behind, or when they shot a close up of Matt Damon, like you couldn't tell you couldn't tell that they weren't like really like the height difference wasn't that much. So I thought like visually like that's cool. Like there's a lot of cool practical effects that went into this movie. So that's what I wanted to say with that. And like leading off or like continuing off of Matt Damon, we can like talk about like the character that he portrayed, Odysseus, which I remember when was it announced that he was gonna be playing Odysseus? Like he was one of like, the first ones, because I remember that was like one of like the earliest criticisms. Like, why is Matt Damon gonna portray Odysseus? Blah 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 blah. And I remember like this happened like a year or two ago when he was first announced.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago, and like this is before the pod. Like this is before we were doing this. So like back then, I remember I read that somewhere as a headline, and I was like, okay, like. I don't know why people are getting so upset. Like the movie's not even gonna come out for like another 2 or 3 years. Like, all right, like that's weird. And I'm just remembering that like right now as we're talking about it, like, oh yeah, like I remember people were upset about like Matt Damon like portraying Odysseus. I don't know why. He fucking killed it. I thought Matt Damon killed it as Odysseus here. And yeah, like let's talk about the characters like in this movie. Like it had an ensemble class of actors here. We had the Martian, that is Matt Damon. We had Spider-Man, that is Tom Holland. We had the Punisher crossover, which is also what's his name? Fuck, what's his name? He's also in Walking Dead. John Favreau. No, who's the actor that portrays Punisher? Like his name?
John Bernthal.
John Bernthal, that's his name. And then we had Catwoman with Anne Hathaway. We had the Batman with Robert Pattinson, or that one vampire from that one movie franchise. If you ever saw Twilight, if you haven't yet, hey, we have an episode about it, and a few episodes back. Go check it out. Plug.
Yeah.
But yeah, like no, this and fuck the voice actor of Sid. I'm so sorry for blanking on your name. Didn't help me out here. The voice actor, fuck, what's his name? The blind dude.
Oh, John Leguizamo.
Yeah, that guy. Like he was there too. Like it was. There was a lot of like big name actors here, but I think they all Zendaya. I forgot about that one, but like there was a lot of big.
Probably a reason for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of actors here, like a big name actors, and I thought like for the most part like everyone brought it. So like we can talk about Odysseus first, or we can talk about him last. We'll talk about him last. Like let's talk about like everybody else, because this whole movie is about Odysseus. So I think we can spend the longest time on him. So Anne Hathaway as Penelope, I thought she did a great job. I thought like she like owned like the emotions, like her outbursts with her son, portrayed by Tom Holland. Like whenever like they would have like their little discussions or whatever, like. I'm not gonna say there was like a lot of nuance to her character because a common Christopher Nolan critique is that like he can write strong male characters, but he kind of struggles in the woman department. And so like this Penelope character, like there's not much depth to her, but Anne Hathaway, like god damn it, like she brings it all. Like she brings the emotion. Like towards the end of the film, she has like this line where she's talking to her son, was it Telemachus?
Yeah.
Telemachus, about like how her son wants her to take on a suitor, so like that way like all the rest of them can like be gone, and it's just one suitor that they have to worry about. And like they're having this back and forth, and he's like, "Do you want like peace or do you want like instability or whatever?" And she has like this outburst, like, "I want my husband Odysseus," and storms off like the room. And I'm like, "Oh, that gave me chills." Like, god damn, that was such. I think like she brought it, like as like Anne Hathaway, for Penelope, she brought it. I know your favorite standout character performance in this movie is going to be Robert Pattinson as the Batman, and I bring him up next because him and Anne Hathaway had a scene together where this is where which kind of goes back into like, the visual world building, where it's a scene where his character, what's his name, Antinous and Penelope are like having this private discussion, and it's filmed like she's weaving something. I don't know what those things are called.
It's a burial shroud. And Anne Hathaway actually did learn how to weave an ancient Greek burial shroud for this movie.
Nice. Yeah, because like they're what is that thing called? Like where you build like the shroud, a wind or a weaver.
Yeah,
I guess like the weaver thing or whatever. Like when she's talking to Antinous, like it's filmed like. The scene is filmed like behind that, so it's got this weird filter like on like the whole lens, so we can't see it. We can see like the outline, like their face, but it's not super detailed because it's obscured by like the weaver in the front. And I thought that was the like Robert Pattinson's best scene of the movie, just because like the amount of like the way that he was like enunciating and like showing like the emotions and lack of emotions in his words as he was talking to her, like trying basically to seduce her. I thought, I was like, oh shit, like this scene works. Like look at Nolan. Like I was complaining earlier about like Nolan, like it doesn't really hold his shots that long. Dylan just said it too right now about like it's like 2 or 3 seconds or whatever. This one, this scene that I'm talking about with Robert Pattinson and Anne Hathaway, it stayed on that scene for a good minute. Like it was there, and I was like, shit, like this is good. Like this is a good scene, Nolan. Wow. And it's such a simple scene, but the actors like Robert Pattinson and Hathaway fucking brought it. And like this movie, I think everybody knew that like, hey, like there's a big epic movie. We need to like lock in. Even Tom Holland, like this is the movie that gave you like hope that like, hey, maybe there's hope for this kid, like for a career after, you know, Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Because right now, like the MCU's got him. But fun fact, this movie was also filmed simultaneously when Spider-Man Brand New Day was coming out or being filmed. So like they wanted Tom Holland to cut his hair for like Spider-Man, and he was like, nah guys, I can't, I'm filming something really important right now. Which was the Odyssey, because he's got a little bit longer hair in the Odyssey. And if you watch Spider-Man, like he's got long hair too. What a coincidence. So I say that to say that like everyone brought it. So even Tom Holland's character Telemachus, he portrays like a naive, like I'm gonna say like a naive, like the naive son of Odysseus, who he grew up without his dad there, but he has like so much respect for his father, even despite not having spent a lot of time with them. And like he's not the best fighter, so people are easily able to like pick on him. And it's just it's a total contrast to like how his dad is. And Tom Holland, I thought, fucking brought it for that scene, or not scene, but like his whole performance as like the son. Like everybody fucking brought it. I think the only person that did not, and I've had time to come around to this opinion, is Zendaya. I'm not saying that she's bad. I'm saying that. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying that everybody like elevated their game for their performance in this movie. Zendaya kind of just did Zendaya. And I'm not saying like she did a bad Zendaya, but I'm just saying like if okay, here's a better way of explaining it. If everybody like if this is like a tier a tier list, like you know everybody like you know you gotta bring your A game or whatever. Like for this episode, like this episode right now, episode 9 of Bloodline Podcast season 3, like I'm trying to bring my A game. You know, like that's what I'm trying to do. If that's what like Nolan's film was, like everybody tried to bring their A game. Everybody brought their S tier game, like Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, the guy that plays Sid. I'm sorry for forgetting your name again.
John Leguizamo.
Thank you. I'm trying to put respect on your name. I just can't remember it right now. The Punisher, you too. I'm sorry.
John Bernthal.
Thank you. But Zendaya, I think she just brought her regular A game, like no elevated, like, and maybe that's why like her performance is not like as captivating as like everybody else's. Because even like some actresses like the witch that played Cersei and
Samantha Morton.
Thank you. I'm totally stealing this from Dylan, so I'm giving him credit right now on the pod because we talked about this off the pod. But even when we were talking about Zendaya, but even her performance, like she got so little screen time, and she brought her S tier game compared to like Zendaya. That's like the only criticism I have in terms of just like Zendaya and like cause I still think she brought it, and even then like she was only in the film for like 8 minutes or something, like 8 or 10 minutes, so it's not like she was like super prominent in the movie compared to like all these other actors, but still when you brought up like the Cersei scene, like yeah, she also only had like probably less than 5 minutes of screen time, and she brought her S tier game. So like everybody brought their fucking like above and beyond game. Zendaya just brought it. That was it. She didn't bring it higher. She just brought it, which I don't know. It's interesting because I saw this clip going around where like it's Matt Damon and Anne Hathaway. They're talking about like Christopher Nolan as a director, and Matt Damon is saying like he's telling you like in the story of like yeah, like whenever we just finish filming the scene, Nolan's just like, yeah, good, yeah, that's good. But you know it's very rare where like we're filming a scene with Zendaya, and when we cut, he was like, perfect. And he walked down, and that was it. And like that, and I've made 3 movies with the guy, and I've never gotten a perfect. And Anne Hathaway's like right next to him. She's like, I feel so bad for one, but I don't want to say it, but I've gotten one perfect. And Matt Damon's like, son of a so Anne Hathaway journaled about it, and it was funny because like, well, first of all, like it's funny that he like whatever scene, because I'm thinking like what was like, because she said that she also did 3 movies with Nolan. I know one of them is like Dark Knight Rises. I don't know.
Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar.
Okay.
And,
well,
Odyssey.
she probably got the perfect in Dark Knight Rises. But I'm just curious, like what scene did she do? What scene was it that he was like perfect? Like that's the scene that I wanted. You did it perfect. And I'm wondering like what's the scene that Zendaya did that he was like perfect? Because I just spent like the whole 2 minutes ago saying that like you know everybody brought their S tier game, or they elevated their game like for this movie because it's an epic story, so they had to like you know bring it just a little bit more than what they usually do. And Zendaya just like you know just A game just brought it, but not all of it. You know like she didn't go above and beyond. But apparently I'm wrong because Christopher Nolan gave her a perfect, and Matt Damon, with all like you know he fucking brought it. He has gotten no perfect from Christopher Nolan. It's very curious. But
Christopher Nolan doesn't direct his actors. That's why.
What do you mean by that?
There are some directors that are very involved with the performance that they want. Like David Fincher is notorious for this. He had Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl do 40 takes of one scene because he was so adamant, like I need it to be done this way, and she would do it, and he's like, no, we're gonna make this change, and she would do it again, and he's like, no, and what he was actually trying to do was, because the scene required her to be frustrated and lash out at the end in anger, is he was trying to physically wear her down by actually making her frustrated by redoing the scene again and again and again until she was
Actually
frustrated
and like brought that
and
energy.
then got the performance. And then he's like, yes,
Perfect.
cut. Yeah. He's like, that's it. Based on everything that I've read, Chris Nolan does not direct his actors. They read the script, basically. They show up and they figure it out on the day. That he calls action and he just lets them do whatever, which I think kind of explains why. I don't think this is a huge problem, but I think it kind of explains why it feels like some actors are in one movie and then some are in a different movie with the Odyssey.
That's a bar. Expand on that.
Well, I think the easiest example is...
And don't take the cop-out answer of Zendaya. Pick someone else.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I think the kind of easy answer here is that you go with someone like Elliot Page as Sinon, who, again, doesn't have a significant amount of screen time to be angry about, but he's in the movie for, again, like 3 to 5 minutes. But I think his performance, it's contrasted so heavily with all the other performances in the movie, because Sinon, I think, thematically serves a kind of an important purpose, at least as it relates to Antinous.
Yeah.
So I think it shows that Nolan does not really direct his actors, because Elliot Page is doing something wildly different from someone like, say, Himesh Patel, who is Odysseus's second in command. And I know you can make the screen time argument, but you alluded to this earlier, which is that, this movie kind of adopts this kind of colloquial American vernacular, which I think works, but I think a major reason that works is because of Matt Damon. Like, I don't know that you could have cast somebody else as Odysseus and have them get away with 10 years on this fucking beach. Let's go home.
Yeah.
I don't know if that works with anybody else, but the point is, what I really did end up like what ended up happening with this movie, where it feels like a movie that is about like a Vietnam or a Gulf War vet that has PTSD and just wants to go home. Because it feels like, if you take the ancient Greek context out of it, this feels like a movie that could have been made 2 years ago, story-wise and thematically. But compare something like Himesh Patel to what Elliot Page is doing, and they feel like they're in different movies. Like, Himesh Patel is in this, like, like this human drama about the psychological effects of war and what it does to you afterwards. And Elliot Page is in a movie about, I don't even know.
Oh, I think I see what you're trying to say, in terms of, like, it feels like the performance is like they're in two different movies, in that, like, they're acting like as if, like, one is acting like they belong in this movie and one is acting as if they're in a different movie.
I'm not trying to, and I'm not stupid, guys. Like, I understand they're different characters, but again, take for example Robert Pattinson. He's very smarmy. He's slimy. He's that hateable piece of shit. But Robert Pattinson is very subtle. Like you said, that scene that he shares with Anne Hathaway, he does all these, like, subtle little facial tics that, you can pick up. It's very similar to what he did as Bruce Wayne in The Batman, where he relies a lot on his eyes and his facial expression to do the acting for him, instead of just using his voice and his mannerisms. Robert Pattinson he's so subtle, and yeah, like, when he does deliver the dialogue, he's very, like, again, like he's just such a slimy little backhanded piece of crap. And he does he steals every scene he's in. But for example, contrast Robert Pattinson to any of the other suitors, and it just feels like they are not in the same movie. Or even Telemachus. Telemachus doesn't feel like he's in the same movie as Robert Pattinson. Mm-hmm. And I think that again, like, this isn't enough to like shatter the illusion of the movie, but I think it is proof that, based on what I've read, that Chris Nolan does not direct his actors.
Mm-hmm. I'm processing what you're saying.
Okay, well then,
because I'm already seeing like some of the comments already misconstruing your words. So I'm trying to think of like, all right, how do I put this in simple man words, or like very, very easily. And I think your last sentence, like made it click for me. Like what you're saying, like the sentence that some actors they feel like they're acting or performing like in two different movies in the same movie, the Odyssey, because but like that sentence goes within the context of, because Nolan does not direct his actors, so therefore like the actors have to like try to interpret like his meaning or whatever, and they could like interpret it differently and act as if they're in a different setting or movie versus I think that's what you're trying to say.
Because he doesn't direct his actors, so basically everyone that read the script is doing their own thing. Yeah, like they're interpreting it differently.
Yeah, because you can basically say like everybody is doing like their own version of the Odyssey instead of doing like one unified vision of like instead of like one unified Nolan vision of how he wants the scene to be and what he wants to bring out of each actor. It's kind of like every actor is like doing like their own version of the Odyssey, and he's just gonna like try to like make it all work. And I guess if you do a scene the way he envisioned it or whatever, you get a perfect. Otherwise, you get all right, yeah, that's good, yeah.
Yeah,
which is so funny because like I've been seeing some clips of Nolan, and the dude's a yapper. Like if you get him talking about film, he will just like,
he loves to hear himself talk.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna go that far because I feel like I've learned a lot from what he said. Like if you get him talking about IMAX cameras and shit, like I feel like I'm learning something. I saw a clip of him where I guess he's like rating the Criterion Closet, and he's just talking about like all these different movies. Like he's picking out movies and just going like monologuing off about them. These movies I've never heard about, and I'm like, oh shit, like this man, like, well, I mean, one, he's a yapper, and two, like he knows his shit. So it's funny because like that I guess that's him, like just casual everyday Chris Nolan, but in work mode, director mode, Nolan, very kind of hands off. Like, yeah, good, all right. It's just it's curious, and again, like I mean, I feel like Dylan would have more insight on this because like he pays more attention to directors and like their works and like little background knowledge about them. I only knew Christopher Nolan as like the dude that directed the Dark Knight trilogy, later Oppenheimer. I mean Tenet too, because I remember that was controversial because he was a bit controversial during COVID. He was basically saying like, yeah, I want you guys, or he wasn't saying this, but people were saying like, because he wanted his Tenet to be shown in movie theaters only, like he didn't want it to go to streaming, and some people took that like the messaging to be like, oh, Christopher Nolan wants you to put your health at risk to go see like this movie in theaters.
Mediocre ass movie.
I mean I guess I haven't seen Tenet, so I have not.
It's not worth watching.
I have not commented anything about it.
I genuinely don't even think you should bother.
But if we ever do like a Christopher Nolan like deep dive episode, like I know his work. I watched all of Zachary Snyder, and who knows? Maybe in 10 years' time, you'll come around to Christopher Nolan like you did for Michael Bay, and maybe like in 10 years from now, you'll be like a Christopher Nolan defender, like you are a Michael Bay defender. Hey, video coming soon. But man, where was I? Christopher Nolan, yes, great guy, great director, but the way that what you're saying right now about like he doesn't really direct his actors, like that's interesting. That's a very interesting way of doing things.
Just it is, and see, I think even the language, like if they do a take for him to say like, all right, yeah, that's fine. That language in itself should tell you like he's not trying to get something specific out of them. That's why I said he's very utilitarian. Like, especially early in his career, like he just would shoot things to get the job done. Like he's not actually like imbuing the movie with his personality or like his politique, according to auteur theory. Whereas like, for example, like this is such a bad example because I keep going back to it, but think of a Michael Bay movie. Think about how everybody is like acting up here. Like they're at 11. Shia LaBeouf, like with the screaming, the no, Bumblebee. Right. Or think about how John Turturro in Revenge of the Fallen with the whole one man alone betrayed by the country he loves. Like Michael Bay is clearly telling all of these people, like, I want you to do the scene like this. And Chris Nolan is like, because he's just so obsessed with the, like I said, the technical and the mechanics, and he just wants to like, look what I can do. It's like he puts the actors in front of the camera and is like, all right, go ahead. But that said, Jesse covered like the majority of the cast. So I want to go in depth about a couple of them because I think Anne Hathaway is spectacular in this movie. I'm going to push back against the whole, and I know this is funny because I just criticized him. I'm going to push back against the whole Chris Nolan can't write women characters thing, because I think that if that's your takeaway from the Odyssey, my argument is that you don't understand the Odyssey. If you read the Odyssey and even the Iliad, the way that Homer writes his female characters is that they all serve to act as mirrors and contrasts of each other. And I think this is very much the case in the Odyssey. Like, for example, Penelope is a very different side of femininity than Calypso. And Calypso is very different from Circe. And, Zendaya, she's not in the movie that much, but again, too, she brings a very different side of femininity. Like, basically, all the supporting women characters in the Odyssey exist to show you why Penelope is a special character, why she is a loyal and faithful woman in a world full of, apparent magic. And so I think Anne Hathaway, she was phenomenal here, like truly. I think Anne Hathaway, she brings a real sense of like grace and maturity to this movie. Like Anne Hathaway, I think she is clearly someone who read the script and was like, oh yes, this is the kind of performance the movie needs, because I think she centers the film. Odysseus is the main character, he's the protagonist, but I think Anne Hathaway is what anchors us into the humanity of it all. Because if we don't like Penelope, then how are we going to be rooting for Odysseus to get home? So her performance is central to this movie working, and she is, I just cannot sing her praises enough. I think she is going to get a Best Actress nomination, and I think, I say this knowing that 60% of the awards movies haven't even come out yet, I have a hard time seeing anybody beating her.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of talked about Robert Pattinson already. He's a clear scene stealer. But like I said, Robert Pattinson is doing his brand of acting where it's more subtle. He relies a lot on his eyes and his facial expressions, and he does this little thing with his cheeks and his eyelids, particularly during the climax of the film, that I think really show what a skilled actor he is. And then you have, in my opinion, probably the most underrated performance of the movie, which is, I don't even know if this is a hot take or not, but I actually think the most underrated performance in the Odyssey is Samantha Morton as Cersei. And the reason I say this is Jesse he already said it, but I am not crazy about Zendaya in this movie. But the reason I brought up Cersei when we were talking about Zendaya is because Samantha Morton as Cersei is in the movie for like 5 to 8 minutes, but you're going to remember her character. Mm-hmm. And it's not just because of the scene. It's not just because of the sequence. You are going to remember her character because of her interaction with Odysseus. You're not going to remember Zendaya. She is important as a thematic device, as a narrative device, but performance-wise, she, like Jesse said, she just doesn't rise to the occasion. And I'm probably a little harsher on her than he is. But
a little?
To say that she doesn't rise to the occasion, to me, is an understatement.
Oh, here we go.
I think Zendaya she's just doing the thing she always does. The same thing she's done since Euphoria, where she just acts kind of pouty and bratty. And she just kind of gives this little attitude. Who doesn't understand fire? Who doesn't understand wind or storms? Come on, guys. Come on. Okay. But here's my nuclear take about the Odyssey.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Because who is the character everybody is talking about in the Odyssey? Mm-hmm. Why don't you illuminate this for the people?
It goes with dun 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 dun. Odysseus.
So
portrayed by Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Our favorite Bostonian. If that's even a word.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to my Bostonian listeners if you're out there.
So
the two of you.
Matt Damon, he was the right choice, guys. Okay. Again, I don't think you get away with this American vernacular if you talk about casting someone like, I've seen some people say Oscar Isaac should have been Odysseus, and I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. He's a good actor. Like, I loved him in Frankenstein, but I don't see him as Odysseus. That's a crazy take to me. Mm-hmm. Matt Damon as Odysseus was the right choice because I don't know if the movie is as hopeful. I don't know if you root for Odysseus as much if Matt Damon is not the one playing him. Because Matt Damon, I think, brings all of his classic charms to the role of Odysseus. But two, I think something, and this didn't really click for me until I rewatched it. I think Matt Damon as Odysseus, what you see, I think you see someone who is like, they have waited their entire life to play this role. They just didn't know it. Mm-hmm. That is genuinely my impression of Matt Damon as Odysseus, because I think this is a hard role to play. I'm sorry, I have to reference my notes here because I can't remember exactly what I said.
No, go ahead. This man take notes.
I think he is genuinely special as Odysseus because this is a weird role. Like, it's a reinterpretation of a classic character. And again, I think Damon brings a lot of his classic charms, but he has to play a man over long periods of time. And he has to go through all these different experiences and obstacles that change him in some way. He has to play a man who is burdened by not only what he's done, but by things that he feels responsible for, even when he shouldn't. And, you know, lastly, the physical transformation for a man of his age is just remarkable, because he really bulked up for this role.
Yeah, I want to see the Odysseus workout on YouTube already. Like, what's the Odysseus workout plan? Because goddamn, like this man's triceps, like when he was like pulling like the fucking like any scene where it was like, you know, you saw him how bulky Matt Damon was. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Damn, I think he could give Mark Wahlberg a run for his money.
Yeah. So Matt Damon was the right choice for Odysseus because you need to be able to root for this guy to get home. And you also need to believe that this guy carries genuine remorse for the things that he's done. And I don't just mean during the Trojan War. I mean genuine remorse for having lost his men over the course of the movie. Because that is the obviously the bulk of the story. Like, you need to believe that this person carries that guilt, that shame, that regret, and trauma. And Matt Damon is able to communicate all of this through his performance while also being charismatic enough to the point where even though he may have made some mistakes, you still root for him. You still see him as a hero. You still want him to get home to his family. So Matt Damon is great as Odysseus. And I think he and Tom Cruise are going to be in a death battle for Best Actor come award season next year. But, okay. We got to address something, because ever since the release of this movie, there's been one character that's getting all the memes, all the TikTok edits, all the attention, and he's, again, barely in the movie.
Which is so funny.
But people are very, very attracted to this character. And obviously, I am talking about Agamemnon, who people are just in love with.
Bro, the armor goes harder, right? You love the armor.
I do, yeah.
Like, it's fucking sexy. Like,
I do, yes.
It's so fucking cool. Maybe
I do like the armor.
Exactly. It's for your fucking wallpaper. Like, it's so fucking cool. Maybe there's just us being boys, you know? Like, hey, man, that looks cool. I like it, you know? This is us. This is boys with the, oh, look, I found a stick. It's so cool. This is us with Agamemnon. Like, he's barely in the film. He barely says or does anything. And yet, like, his screen time, his presence, his aura, as the kids would say, like, this man is, as the kids would say again, aura farming in this movie. Like, the drip is immaculate.
Yes.
He doesn't speak much, so it's just like his very presence alone, just like, it's a very, like, cool, he's just cool, man. And ironically, or not ironically, but like, what does him in, or like the reason he dies is he was caught lacking. He wasn't wearing his armor. But somehow, some way, this man was killed naked, like, you know, by his own wife. You know, he was killed butt naked, and yet in hell, his aura was so dripping that, like, the armor somehow came with him to hell, because he was wearing the same armor. When Odysseus meets him, like, on that one island when they make the offering to Hades, and they see a lot of fallen men rise up again, like, Agamemnon, he was there, so he that's how Odysseus learned that his I guess king or whatever, the king of kings, he died, and like he was wearing the armor that he was wearing before. And then we see, like, the scene where, like, how his wife betrayed him or whatever and killed him, but somehow he was so cool enough that he get to keep the armor. And then apparently the son killed his mom and, like, her lover. Like, it was a whole thing. Like, but to be fair, Agamemnon did, you know, kill his daughter their daughter, but he basically did sacrifice his daughter, you know, for
favorable winds to Troy.
What's what the Greeks did, you know, back in the day, just sacrifice people or animals to their gods. And so, like, yeah, that was the Agamemnon's thing. Or, like, he'll sacrifice something so precious to him in order to get better winds or whatever. Yeah, the wife didn't like that. She held a grudge. So so she kills him for it. But you're gonna say something about him as an actor?
Yes. So Agamemnon is getting all the attention, all the TikTok edits, because he's just frame mogging everyone every time he's on screen, especially during the siege of Troy, where he comes through the gates and he has that same, like, Christian Bale Batman posture. Like, when he walks through the gates, all I could think of was, Bane, I came back to stop you. And so that leads me to my point, which is that the biggest miscast in the Odyssey is not Lupita Nyong'o as Helen of Troy. It's not Elliot Page as Sinon. It's Benny Safdie as Agamemnon. I don't care that this guy rarely ever has his mask off. Casting Benny Safdie in this role for a king who, like you said, is the king of kings in the Mycenaean Greek.
Or at least in this version of the movie, because Nolan did take some creative liberties. Because in Troy, the Agamemnon is like portrayed differently. So it's just,
he's kind of a pussy. Yeah. Yeah. So my scorching hot take is that
here it is, chat.
Benny Safdie was not cut out for this role. I'm sorry. He just does not have the gravitas or the screen presence as an actor to do this, because the armor is doing so much of the heavy lifting. It's the aesthetic, it's the costume design, it's the framing. It's not Benny Safdie. Okay, because something that's been really popular since the Odyssey has come out is this take has caught a lot of traction, which is people have said Christian Bale should have been Odysseus. And you know what? I don't hate that. Even though I just praised Matt Damon to the moon and back, I don't hate that. I think it's a very different movie. I think it's a darker version of the Odyssey. But damn, I can see it. Because Christian Bale, he can obviously play a warrior. We've seen him play Batman. But he can also play like this smart trickster figure that we've seen in The Prestige and American Psycho. We've seen him play this intelligent kind of trickster figure in The Prestige and American Psycho. So I know he can do it. So I don't hate the idea. But guys, Christian Bale should have been Agamemnon. Ooh. And I don't care how small the role is. The point is, when the scene that Jesse just talked about happens, Odysseus and his men, when they go to Hades and they have this sort of communion with Sinon and Agamemnon, imagine Christian Bale doing the acting in that scene. Mm-hmm. Imagine someone who actually, has a screen presence and is arguably one of the 2 or 3 best actors of his generation, delivering that story.
Yeah. My only count to
Christian Bale should have been Agamemnon.
It would have been too much aura, man. It's Batman playing Batman next to Batman as like the Robert Pattinson.
That's why it should have
too much aura.
That's why it should have happened.
It would have broke the internet, and that's why Nolan's like, I can't do this to people. But that, you know what? Like, I see the vision. Like that would have been so fucking cool.
Because I think if Christian Bale was Agamemnon,
he already has an ensemble cast. Why not?
Yeah. Exactly. That whole scene is so much more effective, because that scene is pivotal to the Odyssey in general in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like it's pivotal to the way that Odysseus arrives at Ithaca when he's able to return.
Yeah.
So it's a crucial scene. And yeah, I can imagine people are going to like, oh, Christian Bale would never take a role that small. I feel like for this movie he would have, but
yeah, he's worked with Nolan before.
Yeah,
he'd do him
4 times. Yeah,
I think he like, you know what, it's an ensemble cast. I see the vision that Nolan's trying to do. I'll do it.
Yeah, I think he would have done it, but I think it would have been so much more effective. But not because Agamemnon is like, in my opinion, what he really represents in this movie is Agamemnon is proof of Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero's Journey. The reason people are so attracted to this character is because it's just proof of something called the monomyth, that people inherently understand like these universal images, stories, and language. And in this case, it's visual language. And so when Agamemnon walks through the gates of Troy, and he's like fucking 7 feet tall in this all black armor with a horsehair helmet that's way taller than anyone else's. He has the spine on the back.
So fucking cool.
What that communicates to the audience is this is a powerful, imposing character, and to put Benny Safdie in that armor, I think is just such a joke. It should have been Christian Bale.
You know what? I can't disagree there. Like that. I feel like that would have been cool. I feel like, yeah, because like even though he wouldn't like, because yeah, he doesn't really talk much, and the only time like he does talk, or because I do think he's acting. I do think it does take like skill, like some acting skill to be stoic and like not like show like much emotion or whatever. But when he does act and he does speak or whatever in Hades, that would have been cool if it was Christian Bale delivering those lines instead. Like, what if my wife have I been avenged or whatever?
And I agree with you. I'm not saying Benny Safdie didn't display any skill, but what I'm saying is because Christian Bale has already played Batman for 3 movies behind a mask, put him in the Agamemnon armor, and let's see that scene where Odysseus walks up to him after the Trojan War and bows. Imagine the stoicism Christian Bale could have conveyed in that armor as Odysseus, kneels before him.
Right.
Imagine the scene in Hades with Christian Bale. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, damn, that would have been cool. Yeah. Interesting. Nolan.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, just to wrap up this part, I do got to give credit to Tom Holland. It felt like I was watching him grow up before my very eyes. I was like, finally, this kid is in a real movie. And he's, giving a performance to where he's...
I think he's our age. I think he's 30.
This old man.
This unk.
Yeah, as the kids would say. This old man is giving a performance that actually asks him to be mature. To be in a real movie about things that has something to say. It gave me hope for him. And I hope that the projects that he does after he's finally, released from Kevin Feige's evil grasp, are able to highlight his talents.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy Charlize Theron as Calypso because I think she serves a very important role in the movie, which I can get to later. But see, that's another example where I feel like she was kind of in a different movie.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Well, let me ask you a question. Like, what was like, what were your favorite scenes of like the movie?
Oh boy.
Like, I think we have like a lot of scenes that we can talk
boy.
about later. Like, these scenes are like bad. I hated these. Like, these are my critiques of this movie or whatever. But what were your favorites?
Oh boy.
Here we go.
Here we go, ladies and
Did
gentlemen.
it involve Cersei or Calypso?
Here we go. I can't even pick one scene. I'm going to start this and then Jesse will give you his. My first viewing of this movie, we sat down in the theater to watch Christopher Nolan's Odyssey. And it doesn't even open with a shot. It's just a black screen, and then we get a chyron that says, "In a time of apparent magic." And like I said earlier, I struggled with the first 20 to 30 minutes because I thought it was a little messy. But then we actually get into the Odyssey part of the Odyssey. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's happening.
When they walk into the cave for the Cyclops sequence, I was in genuine awe, ladies and gentlemen, because I just thought this was this was an accomplishment of filmmaking. Like Jesse earlier praised the practical effects. Well, think about it here, because the Cyclops is a combination of puppetry and a performance from the actor Bill Irwin, and I wasn't even thinking about that. I was watching this sequence and I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is horrifying. This is the most iconic Homeric monster come to life on the big screen. And I was enthralled the whole fucking time. I mean, the scale, the visceral quality with which it's shot, it's so unbelievably incredible. And like the whole sequence of events during the main Odyssey as Odysseus is trying to get home really is like, and I do have scenes that I favor over some, but I just can't not talk about this. The whole sequence of the Cyclops to the giant cannibals to Circe to the sirens to Charybdis to Scylla. I'm like, this is crazy.
It's an epic journey. It's an Odyssey.
Yes, because Christopher Nolan is typically a guy who makes very grounded movies. You know, he even with Batman, you know, they were very grounded films.
Yeah.
And to finally see him embrace the fantastical, this is where the movie shines. When it leans into the Greek mythology, into the metaphysical stuff, that's when the movie soars. Like, you know, it's not that I dislike all the politics about Ithaca with the suitors and Penelope, but I forget that stuff even exists when we're on this journey, because I was so immersed. I felt like I was in it with him. Mm-hmm. Like I was right alongside him for this. You know, when they're in the cave with the Cyclops and he puts his hand out, you know, telling his men, don't even try to make it out of here. Mm-hmm. Yet I felt like he was telling me, don't move. This whole thing just unfolds like a nightmare. Like it's this hallucinatory fever dream in the best way imaginable. I was just in awe from start to finish. This is movie magic in the purest sense, because I think the most fascinating thing here about the Odyssey is that it opens with that Chiron of in a time of apparent magic, and the way that Nolan chooses to like present the movie is he tries to present it as history. Like this is something that actually happened. Like he has such reverence for the source material that he treats it as real world history that just happened 3,000 years ago. And so I'm watching this thing and I'm thinking, yes, this fucking happened. Like there was a man named Odysseus who encountered a Cyclops, who encountered the witch Circe, who was bestowed gifts by the gods, who dared to listen to the song of the sirens, who had to make the choice between the whirlpool Charybdis and Scylla. I believed that all this stuff happened because of the sheer cinematic excellence that was on display here. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a perfect Christopher Nolan movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it is a perfect Christopher Nolan movie. And what I mean by that is, and I told this to Jesse when we walked out of the theater the first time, Christopher Nolan has been making the Odyssey for the past 20 years, and I just kind of felt stupid that I didn't realize this. Mm-hmm. Because the opening shot of Inception is Leonardo DiCaprio washed up on a beach as the waves come in, and he stares at a dream image of his children. This is such a clear textual reference to the Odyssey. And think about how many Christopher Nolan movies are about burdened, genius, complicated men trying to get back home to their family with like opaque wife characters in the background. Oh, Inception. Oh, Interstellar. Oh, The Soldiers in Dunkirk. Oh, You could argue he even does that with Batman because Christian Bale is constantly trying to find a reason to stop being Batman so he can be with Rachel. Memento, even though his wife's dead. Like, he's been doing this for 20 years and I never realized it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And like, see, you're going to have to do the scenes because I have a favorite scene, which I have like a very specific point I want to make about it, but I know it's you're going to bring it up as well. So I'll just hold off. But like the Odyssey 2, this is a fantastic superhero film. And I mean this as a compliment because even though I like to come on here and just, drag Marvel through the mud, they deserve it. But the reason I say this is a fantastic superhero movie is because you hear comic book fans, the people who have read comic books their entire lives. And yeah, I've read comic books, but it was like always Batman stuff. So you hear Marvel fans talk about Infinity War or talk about, Endgame, whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, I could have only ever imagined this kind of stuff. It's like seeing my dream come to life. And I'm like thinking, yeah, that's cool. Like Infinity War. I like Infinity War. That's a great comic book movie, but I never like really felt like that, that sense of like wonderment. And then I watched the Odyssey, and guys, like I'm not even coming at this from like a classicist background. Like I had no emotional attachment to the Odyssey whatsoever. I read it my freshman year of high school, and I thought, yeah, this is interesting. We watched Oh Brother, Where Art Thou as our big adaptation of the Odyssey, and I was like, whatever.
Right.
I think I read the Odyssey for the second time in like 2016 or 17 because I read it more as an exploration of philosophy. Because episode 4 of this season should let the listeners know that it's kind of like a weird hobby of mine. But, I read it the second time, more as like a philosophical experiment. And so I came at this more very much like a layman. But when I watched this movie for the first time, I was seeing these things come to life that I had only ever read about. And I was blown away. Like I was sitting there thinking like that's a Cyclops. Like, look at those giants. Look at Circe turning these men into pigs with like divine power. Look at the sirens. Like, it's just remarkable stuff. I mean, I cannot emphasize enough how much this movie restored my faith in magic, the concept of magic itself. And I'm not saying I believe in magic in the real world, but it's like just the way Nolan chose to frame this movie. Like I said, it's like he frames it as like magic did exist, but it was long ago and we've lost that. And watching this movie, watching him bring it to life, watching him put it on the big screen, God damn. It was like a spiritual experience to see this because Jesse loves to say that I'm the guy that says movies are magic.
Yeah, he does say that.
And this is what I mean. This is what I mean.
Well, the movie did start, in a world of apparent magic. It was right there at the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the first time I watched this film, my favorite scene right off the bat, like my first time viewing, was and is, I'm going to say was because when I watched it the second time, I have a new favorite scene. But my favorite scene the first time was the siren song sequence. Like, I love that when the man, Odysseus has his men putting wax in their ears so they can't hear it. as they put wax in one ear and the other one, this side of the movie theater dampens, like the audio goes a little bit muffled, and the right side goes muffled, and it's just like, from our perspective, like we don't get to hear the siren song, only Odysseus does. Like we hear like a muffled rendition of it or whatever. And like I thought that was like a great, like a brilliant portrayal of like that scene, like how, it was a brilliant portrayal of showing how describing like a sound that is like so desirable. Like the sirens are supposed to like try, like they're like monsters that like can sing and like seduce you to your death or whatever, but you don't hear that. You don't hear like the death part. You just hear the you hear like a sweet song that like has you like wanting them passionately. And so like Odysseus has his men cover the ears with wax, but he tells them to tie him to like the mast of the boat because he wants to hear the siren song. And so and as like the audience, we don't even get to hear the siren song either. It's just, we just see Matt Damon, like his portrayal of it, just him going through these different phases of like, going from like kind of like pleasure, lust, to like pain and sorrow. Like he explains it later, like he does like a voiceover, like the song, what it sounded like. It sounded like the of everything that you ever wanted, everything that everything you thought, or everything like, or even something
Everything you'd wish you'd never wish for.
Yes, or like something that you didn't even know you wanted. It makes you want it, and then now like the bitterness, or like the feeling of like you can't have it, so that makes you even want it even more. That how you describe it, like that that itch that you can't scratch in a sense. And it's just, I loved that sequence. I loved the song, the siren song. I was like, shit, this is my song. I fucking love it. And the second time I watched, I mean, I noticed it the first time, but then the second time I watched it, like my second favorite scene was towards the end, where like Odysseus, like in secret, he disguises himself as a beggar. He talks to Penelope, and he had like a monologue where he's like, what if Odysseus, or like, what if he didn't want to come back, or like, what if he knew, like, what if he thought, what if he decided, what if he, like, he goes on his monologue, and like the music, like the theme song, yeah, particularly is called Odysseus. I know I looked at the soundtrack because I've been obsessed with this song. This and the siren song I've been obsessed with, because they both sound kind of similar, but the Odysseus song is longer, and like, so like that monologue that he has with his wife Penelope, just, I thought like that scene was fucking brilliant, and I thought it brought everything, like the whole movie, like the journey, like what like this scene was resting on like the whole movie coming together to like this pivotal moment. Like this scene does not work if we did not just see this man go through this whole fucking journey trying to get back home to his wife and kid. So like Matt Damon's performance there fucking killed it, and Anne Hathaway fucking killed it. Like those two scenes, the siren scene and like the final, like the monologue scene where he's talking about like war, like what that did to him as like, or what that did to Odysseus as a person, and like why, like, because in a sense, like we find out like even during the siren song that like the sirens basically told him that he doesn't really want to go home, and that happens around like halfway through the movie, or halfway through the journey, I should say. And so like one could see like on a deeper philosophical surface, like you can like really dive into that, like why did Odysseus not want to come home? And it kind of comes full circle in like the final scene, or like that scene with Anne Hathaway where he's basically like reflecting on that, like what if he didn't want to come home because like he saw what war was doing to Troy, and how like he broke I can't believe we're like almost like 2 hours into this episode and we're just bringing up the reference. It's like to Zeus's law, like that concept of like basically like the golden rule, like do unto others what you wouldn't want to do to yourself, but like not that exactly. It's like in the Greek philosophy, or not the Greek philosophy, like in this movie, in the context, it was that Zeus's law is that the gods could come take human disguises. So like you should not like you should host like a feast or whatever, and like, or not you should host a feast. If someone comes knocking on your door or whatever, you should offer them hospitality. It's basically like building off like that social contract of like humans interacting and building trust in each other. Like, okay, like welcome someone, if you need welcome someone into your home, and like you feed them and let them rest. And conversely, as the guest, you shouldn't like take advantage of your situation. Like you shouldn't be like a squatter. Like you should already be thankful that you have a place to rest and food, and then you should be on your way. And the whole plot line with the suitors is that they're violating this sacred law. Like they're just taking advantage of Odysseus absence. They're taking advantage of his food, his wine, like everything. Like they're just overstaying their welcome. And Odysseus has like a reflection on that, and that like when they invaded Troy or whatever, like they broke Zeus's law, and that like they offered them like the wooden horse, the Trojan horse, like as a peace offering, and the Trojans trusted like their goodwill and gesture, and they betrayed that goodwill and gesture. Like thus, like Odysseus has like this existential crisis that makes him be like, maybe deep down I don't want to get home to Ithaca right away. And I don't know. I just think like that's like some. Like if you really think about it, like damn, like that's some philosophical shit right there. And that's Dylan's shit. He loves that philosophy and all that bullshit.
So yeah, if we're gonna single out a scene, my favorite scene is the scene with the sirens, and I've seen some people complain that it's too short.
I think it's even better because that's something that you want and you can't have.
Yeah, but the point is I just like that there's this sense of like longing and sadness to the whole thing, because it's the point of the siren song that I think people like really seem to misunderstand, because obviously if you do go try to chase them, it leads to your inevitable death. But I think that it's created this false notion that the siren song is like something terrible, something that it's kind of going to drive you crazy. No, it's supposed to be hauntingly beautiful. It's supposed to be something that feels out of reach. But apart from the obvious melancholic tones, which I've said before that I like my stuff sad, the reason that the sirens is my favorite scene in the movie is because the Odyssey, not just the movie, but the poem, contains one of the first and best observations of behavioral psychology that we have. And this was before we even had the language to articulate this stuff. Odysseus has to sail past the sirens, and he knows he's not going to be able to resist them. So what does he do? Like Jesse said, he does what modern psychologists call a commitment device. He plugs his men's ears with beeswax, and then he lashes himself to the mast. He's able to hear the sirens, what he wants to experience. But fundamentally, what Odysseus understands is that who he is at the moment of temptation, when he is sailing past the sirens, when his willpower is being tested, is not who he wants to be. He wants to make his decision before the temptation arrived. Before he has a chance to fail, he's ensuring that it doesn't happen. He wants to defer to the sober Odysseus rather than the seduced Odysseus. So what makes Odysseus different from all the other sailors that go past the sirens? It isn't that he had more willpower or discipline. It's the fact that he knew that he had no willpower or discipline. What he did was make his decision before he got there. He understood that in the moment, with those beautiful voices calling him, he'd be just as weak as everyone else. So he came up with a way to protect himself from himself. And this is part of what makes the Odyssey so special, which is that Odysseus is supposed to represent both our higher selves and our lower, baser selves. He is the best and worst of us. And the reason that this story has endured for 3,000 years, the reason that I think this movie is resonating so strongly with people, is because we do not get stories like this anymore. And what I mean by that is that the Odyssey is both a form of art, meaning that it is about the beautiful language, it's provocative, it's entertaining, all of that. But the Odyssey also exists as a means of communicating ancient wisdom and timeless moral truths. When is the last story that has done this? Okay, because the Odyssey champions Western values, valor, sacrifice, earnestness, steadfastness, perseverance, loyalty, bravery. These are ancient, values and moral truths that this story is like. The Odyssey is as much a vessel for philosophy as it is a story to entertain people. And this is just a lost art in modern time.
Yeah, well, that's why this is a movie that we've been talking about like earlier in the episode, that this is gonna be a movie that people are gonna talk about decades from now. Like this movie is something special. Like this, Nolan did something like special right here. Like this movie, like this is like one of like, not the one, but one of the one. Like this is the one. So this is not the one, but this is one of like, the one. So this is a one. So like Nolan, you did it. You did it with Oppenheimer, but like you did it again. This is the one. Like the Odyssey, this is gonna be a movie that people will remember. And obviously, like we're gonna be talking about this decades from now. Not only because it's a great fucking film, but it's also like it's a classic tale. Like there's been a lot of renditions of the Odyssey. There's been a lot of movies that are either like, there's been a lot of Odyssey movies, or there's been a lot of movies or stories that have been influenced by the Odyssey. Like it's just It's just like a classic. It's just a classic story. It's a classic tale, as old as mankind could write, essentially. Or the Odyssey was originally an oral poem. Like this is before we could write, and then eventually like someone transcribed it, and that's what we have today. But it used to be like like the Greeks were pretty like they were into their poetry, and like just basically like not singing it, but like they had like a certain like rhyme scheme that they used that was like very famous. And the Odyssey and the Iliad, they were done this way, and others too that were probably lost to history because no one bothered to write them down. But I'm gonna throw in one more favorite scene. My other favorite scene was I think I already talked about it. The scene with Cersei. And like the transformation of like the men to the body horror basically imagery. Like I thought that like that whole sequence was just like fucking like, oh, like just like this is so fucking like it made me feel like uncomfortable, but in a good way. Like, oh shit, like this is fucking like horrifying. Like seeing what she's doing to these men, and like basically transforming them in a sense, or not in a sense, like that's what she was doing. But then she has like that dialogue with Odysseus about like like you sent basically all these men like to my home, like men who are hungry, and like I think she said like warm or hot, basically as in like they're horny. Like you sent me like men who haven't like slept with women in a long ass time, men who are hungry, and I'm just a lone woman here. Like what kind of person are you, Odysseus? Blah 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 blah. And this is like we're just trying to go home, lady. But like that whole scene, like I thought like her like the witches scene was fucking like one of my favorites. Like it was like there was like a lot of like little journeys here and there. Like these could have been like their own movies, as in like the whole like the sequences of Cyclops, that could have been like a whole plot for like a movie, like a whole 90-minute movie about like it could have been anything, like a group of soldiers like who are done with the war trying to get back home, and they run into a Cyclops, and like they're stuck in a cave with them. That could have been like a whole movie right there with like that framework. Later on with like Odysseus and the men that travel to a different island with the man-eating cannibals, that could have been like its own separate adventure. That could have been a whole other movie, a 90-minute movie. Like, so all these little things, and that's what makes like an epic and an Odyssey. Like it was a lot of milestone journeys until Odysseus can
Yes.
get home. And seeing like the physical changes of Matt Damon, like from the beginning of the movie or in flashbacks as like a younger Odysseus to like the older, withered down, like beggar looking Odysseus, like I thought it was fucking brilliant.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said it's a hard role. Like he has to play him over the course of 20 years, which means like his emotional and mental state evolves, like his psychology evolves. This wasn't an easy role to play.
Yeah. And he didn't get a single perfect from Nolan. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like hashtag justice for Matt Damon. Give him his
The
fucking
best
perfect.
Bostonian.
Yes, the best Bostonian.
Because we know
in this
it's
film.
not Ben Affleck.
Damn. I would say Ben Affleck in this one. No, different Ben Affleck or different movie.
Yeah, different movie.
Mm-hmm.
But they came up together. They're best friends.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. But yeah. I think this movie is still in theaters. Like I said, by the time this episode comes out, the Odyssey
It's still gonna be in
it's still gonna
theaters.
be booked in IMAX.
Mhm.
Like by the time this episode comes out, I still would not have seen this movie in IMAX. I'm trying to see it, but more than likely I'm gonna have to settle for like a Screen X or an AMC Dolby Atmos or whatever. Like, or no, is it AMC XD? I think, or I don't know which one has XD, but it's basically IMAX. It's not like the full IMAX or whatever, but this is gonna be a movie that people are talking about and people want to actually see. So the domino effect or the butterfly effect of this of what happens afterward is gonna be interesting, because I do hope and think that we're gonna see a lot of directors trying to do, get cute with it and try to film their shit with IMAX too. I mean, because Nolan basically invented these cameras, so it's like, all right, he's shown that it's possible like to make quieter or more effective uses of IMAX. So I expect more directors to try to give it a go. I really hope that it'd be so cool if I can see like a Michael Bay movie in like all IMAX. Like,
Oh, it would.
he'd
do it better.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder, like,
Visually.
visually. That's what I'm saying. Visually,
yeah.
like we're talking about like visually. Like, they both like have obviously different directing styles, but I think visually, like the ones who can like take advantage of it would be Nolan, because he's been doing it like not the longest, but he's been like the one that he's been like the pioneer trying to like incorporate IMAX into his films until this very movie.
He wasn't the first, because there was a filmmaker that used IMAX, I think, for a total of the 3 minutes in like 1930. I could be wrong. I might get roasted in the comments. I'm going to say 1935.
Yeah. But I'm saying like a prominent like director.
But
like,
yes, like Nolan was the pioneer for modern filmmaking. And then coincidentally, Michael Bay was the second one to do it in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm hoping like with this movie, we're going to see like more like directors like try to give it a go and like do these like epic or big like set pieces or like big scenes that they fully take advantage of, because if you're just gonna shoot your movie like in the box IMAX format, you gotta make it look cool. Like, you gotta take advantage of that vertical space. If you're not gonna do anything with it, then you're just being cute with it for no fucking reason. But I expect that there's gonna be a lot of directors that try to do that anyway, and so we'll probably see some movies that like are filmed in IMAX that do nothing with those scenes that they're using the IMAX cameras in. But you might see more films that are, fully taking advantage of the IMAX cameras, like a Michael Bay or like I was gonna say Matt Reeves, but maybe someone else, like someone who like. I think Matt Reeves could do it, but
I think Matt Reeves is too much of a formalist. Like he's too. And I don't mean this as an insult. I think he's way too precise to want to do something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Denis Villeneuve would do it, the
Boom,
director
there we
of
go.
Dune.
Yeah, I think he has done it. I think that.
Well, he has, because both Dune Part 1 and 2 have significant IMAX sequences. But what I mean is I think he would make the attempt to use it heavily.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really hoping like with this movie that we're gonna see more of that, like more directors trying to be more ambitious with their projects. I think this movie was a very ambitious movie by Nolan, and I think he succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think throughout this whole episode, we've just been like praising how good this movie is, with a few minor complaints here and there, but for the most part, I feel like this has been pretty praiseworthy. So I say that to say, chat, that here we go. Criticisms start now. I think we're gonna hold off on that. Spoiler alert, or not spoiler alert, but this movie is so fucking big, and we have more shit to talk about that we're gonna split this up right now. As we were talking, we realized like, oh shit, like we're spending a lot of time on like certain topics or whatever. So this is gonna be split into 2 episodes, letting you guys know right now, 2 hours in, because for the most part, this episode, what I noticed is that we're mostly like praising the movie, and I think we are giving you our not shallow takes, like we're diving into the movie, but we're gonna do this a la Mission Impossible style from season 1, and dig our toes even deeper into
Can I rise to the occasion?
Yes you can. I'm gonna need you to trust me one last time. So we're gonna split this episode into 2 parts, because right now we're gonna get into our criticisms, we're gonna deep dive into criticisms of this movie. But we're already at 2 hours in or something like that, so we're gonna give you as a listener a break. This is what we would call back in the olden days. God, see, look at me becoming a fucking film snob. But in the olden days, they would call this an intermission.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a 2-part episode. Ta-da! Didn't even say that at the beginning of the episode. I should have, but here we are saying that at the end. This is a 2-part episode. This is the intermission, because right next we're gonna be filming the our criticisms of this movie, our deep dive. Like, all right, what didn't work, what we didn't like, and really get into it. Like, let we've covered, I think, the visual aspects of the movie, the characters, like the actors and all this. I think we've covered that for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So now, let's really dive right into it.
Mm-hmm.
So, chat, this is gonna be a quick little intermission, but for you guys, it's gonna be a week-long wait for you guys.
Yeah.
So I say that to say, I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts you want to give for this specific episode?
For this specific episode,
we're about to go in.
My only closing statement would be that this movie is thrilling, and I think Christopher Nolan is a really interesting filmmaker, because his movies operate very interestingly. I think as both these kind of like smooth-brained roller coaster rides, and also these really deep, passionate, sincere, and thematic adventures. And there is no deeper, more sincere thematic adventure than the Odyssey. And so it's fitting what he's able to build into this movie, or just to make it come to life. I mean, the achievement that he... This is a cinematic achievement, not just in the sense of, being shot entirely on IMAX cameras, but what he was able to bring to life through these practical effects, whether it was the giant cannibals, the whirlpool, the scene with Circe and the pigs. It is an achievement, and I think it should be celebrated, even if I don't think it's his best movie, or even if I don't think it's completely flawless. Like,
you still called it a perfect Christopher Nolan film.
I did, yes.
Yeah?
For Christopher Nolan, this is a perfect Christopher Nolan film.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I don't think we'll elaborate on this, so I'll just get this out of the way in this first part. I think this movie gets 12 Oscar nominations. And then you add 4 acting nominations for Damon Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, and Samantha Morton, and maybe Charlize Theron on top of that. That's 16 nominations. That's the record. No director has ever won Best Director and Best Picture with consecutive films in the history of the Academy Awards. I think this wins both. Even though even though I don't think it's perfect, I have a hard time. Again, and I say this, I haven't seen like 60% of the awards movies that are going to come out in the fall. I think this wins Best Picture and Best Director. I don't think it's conceivable to imagine a different scenario. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that before we really get into the weeds here.
All right. All right, Chad. Well, thank you for listening. Links are in the description. You already know all that fun jazz. And I want you guys to pay attention, or for those of you who missed this episode or just tuning in, or part 2 is already out for you. I just want you to notice the transition that we're gonna go from episode 9 to episode 10. And for you, maybe it'll be seamless. For those that have to wait a week, just tune back in to the last 5 minutes of this episode, because it's gonna be a seamless transition.
Yeah,
I am lying through my teeth, but I'm trying to hook you guys in to stay tuned for part 2, because I think we've praised this film for the most part, and we've given our take. But now let's really peel back this onion of a movie and peel back the layers and really dive right into it. So thank you for listening to this week's episode 9. So therefore that means the next episode is episode 10 in full hue. So what movie are we going to talk about for episode 10? I wonder what it could be. Oh, that's right. The fucking Odyssey. Let's fucking go. So stay tuned. We'll catch you guys back next week. Well, next week for you guys, 5 minutes. If you've, went back to this episode and are watching this transition into episode 10, stay tuned. If you watch episode 10 before watching this one, you're going to be confused. So yeah. Thank you guys for listening. My name is Jesse. I've been, just your typical nobody from Hollywood. Socials are in the description. Tune in next week because we're hitting our milestone episode 10. I think episode 60, canonically 61, or something like that.
Something along those lines.
Something like that. But episode 10 of season 3. So stay tuned.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm not going to keep you here much longer because part 2 is coming up, in a week for you. But anyways, thanks for listening and or watching. The most effective way to support the show is, of course, to follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@nightfallfilms. And thank you to Levi for composing our theme music and the mixing and mastering of these episodes. Thank you to Jesse for the artwork. And thank you to Mind Palace Maya for producing and really outlining these episodes to try and keep us on track here. Still ran a little long, so that's on us. But she did her best, so thank you to her. Catch you next time, everybody. Peace, plants. Namaste.
These people work hard, man. Not even just at the top line. All the people below the line work hard.